Hello, welcome to the video. Thanks for clicking. Hope you enjoy. I might seem a little bit tired, maybe a little bit like I don't want to make this video. It's because I don't, because I already did. But I messed it up because I put music in the background like there is now, but I just didn't have my headphones on, so I didn't know what music it was. And I ended up playing a playlist that didn't have a bunch of songs that I wanted to play. And yeah, so it played this song, and then the playlist ended, so I started playing related songs. And I wanted it to be like lo-fi and ambient songs, chill in the background. And then the next song that played was the rock song, which is also made by the same people who made this song. And I don't want a rock song in the background of this video. And there was also several DMCA songs that played, and so now I'm gonna have to be paying much more attention to the music. But yeah, so if it ever looks like I'm a little bit, a little bit, because I am, because I already recorded this. It took an hour. So pretty sad, but yeah, we're doing it again. So today I am talking about Justice League, particularly the Snyder cut, or officially referred to as just Zack Snyder's Justice League. So just a bit of context to the whole debacle, in case you weren't aware. Justice League came out in 2017, and it was met with a lot of people not really liking it. And a lot of hardcore DC fans were pretty mad because apparently the movie didn't meet the standards that were kind of set in place by the previous movies that came before chronologically, like Batman vs. Superman, Wonder Woman, Man of Steel. I don't really know much about that because I really didn't pay attention to those movies. I kind of watched them, not really. I don't really remember much, but anyways, that's how it happened. The people were like, hey, this is not that good. And I mean, it wasn't a bad movie. It wasn't good, but it wasn't like terrible by itself. But apparently it was kind of like set to be this big thing, and then it wasn't. And so there was a lot of people mad. And there was the talks of Zack Snyder having an original plan, and that was kind of scrapped and cut down to what was released in the theaters. And then became the internet movements to hashtag release the Snyder Cut, which was one of the most popular movements, I guess you could say, on the internet that were pushing the studio to release Zack Snyder's original vision for the film to the world. And after a bunch of tweets and stuff, videos, maybe, I don't know, a bunch of talk over the internet, finally, 4 years later, here we are today in 2021 with the release of Zack Snyder's Justice League 3 days ago on March 18th. Exclusively on HBO Max, I believe. But yeah, and for those who don't know, it is a 4-hour long movie, so twice as long as the original, meaning twice as good, right? Maybe, I don't know, I guess we'll find out. So for this video, I watched both. First, I watched Justice League, the original, so that I could go into it unbiased by how much better the new one is going to be, or was, I guess. So I watched the first one, which is about 2 hours, and then directly after watched the second one, which is 4. So it was 6 hours back to back watching both of them. So the way I went about it to prepare for this video was I watched the first movie just the whole way through, and then after got my main takeaways of why I think it wasn't that good, without seeing the improvements made in the new one, just subjectively why I think this movie wasn't good by itself. And then watched the new version, Zack Snyder's version, and pretty much just took notes on not every single thing, but some of the main differences in the movie, main additions, main things that just made it better. So I will have a link to both docs, one being the notes that I took from watching the movie, and the other being like the sort of script thing that I'm going off of for this video, just cause I don't know. So this is my doc for the notes. So at the top here, this is my takeaways from the cinema release, and the other just over 3 pages, I believe, is notes on the new movie. And then this is my little thing to go off of for this. If we're talking total preparation, including watching the movies, like 12 hours. And then I still have to edit for like another 2 hours. So yeah, it's gonna be like a 14-hour process. So please give it a like. I would appreciate it very much. And maybe consider subscribing. You don't have to do it now. Again, just putting the idea in your mind so you don't forget when you're done with the video, you know? And I'm just gonna say it before anyone comments it or anything. I have watched Charlie's video, and so there will be some repeated things in this video that he said in his, and that is because I agree with almost everything that he said. So of course I'm gonna talk about that, but even if I didn't see it, I probably would have said the same things, like the same ideas that he included, because I mean, it's all true. If you want to watch his, I'll leave a link to it in the description as well as in the card over there. No, right there, right? I don't know, whatever, in the card above and in the description below if you want to check out his video. And now I will talk about the original Justice League. 2 hours total. That's it. And because it's 2 hours, like most movies, it falls prey to the fact that it is 2 hours. The good thing about movies is that you're able to get a glimpse, you know, you're kind of just thrown into this new world, this new universe, this story, and you go along with these characters and do whatever, you know, you go through a challenge, whatever. It's this cool little thing. You get to experience something for a little while, and it's cool. But if they try to jam-pack a lot of different events and big conflicts and things into that short amount of time, usually it ends up being rushed. And Justice League falls prey to exactly that. Which is a good thing about shows and series and stuff like that, is that they're able to string it along and develop characters and develop the story as they go. And so you're more involved and just care more about the things that happen. And just gives more meaning to everything that happens in the show. And now in movies, they can still do this, but it's much more of a refined technique to be able to do that in a single movie or in a series, introducing characters as the movies progress, which they did very well in Marvel with all the different movies of the different characters, and then Avengers, which is all of them, you know, and you're already connected to the characters, which is why Endgame was so good, because you know, Endgame and Infinity War and Endgame, because you're already connected to these characters, and so when things happen to them, you care, you know. In Justice League, there wasn't that, because of course you're already introduced to Batman, Superman, Wonder Woman. I mean, you already know them, and you already know Cyborg, Flash, Aquaman, but you're not introduced to them this way as these people, you know. The Aquaman movie has came out now, but assuming that this would have came out originally in 2017, the Aquaman movie didn't come out yet. So we didn't have that connection, that introduction to that character. As well as no introduction to the Flash and the Cyborg. And in this movie, because it's so fast, we don't get any introduction and any backstory to them. So we don't really know them. And so things happen to them, we don't really care. We're just not attached to them. We don't really have a connection to them. We don't know what's exactly happening with them and in their head. So we're less impacted by anything that happens to them. And because the events aren't built up, they're less meaningful. The Steppenwolf dude, the bad guy, is introduced in like the first 10 minutes, and there really isn't any build-up or explanation to what the heck is happening in the story. We're just kind of thrown in, and boom, there he is, and oh, we got the box. Uh-oh, bad guy's on the loose. And then he gets the other box in like 5 minutes after. And it's just very, very, very fast-paced, and so we kind of miss all of that development and the part where we get attached to the story and the characters. And so it's just a lot less meaningful. But yeah, and because there's much less time to really do anything in the movie, the conflicts come up really fast, and then they're resolved very fast, like getting the team together, awakening Superman, and then the final battle. It all happens so quickly, and it just kind of defeats the importance of the events, which are important, you know. Assembling the team is important to the movie that is about them being a team. Awakening Superman is important because without him they would have lost. And then the final battle is the final battle, you know. It's supposed to be important, it's supposed to be meaningful. just happens so fast, and he gets whooped by Superman. Doesn't really mean much. But now we move on to Zack Snyder's Justice League. Now, this movie is very, very different. I mean, straight from the start, we get not necessarily a recap of the past events from like Batman vs Superman, but we do get more of a reference to the characters that were in that, like Lex Luthor, and it kind of just shows more like connection between the different movies instead of just kind of getting thrown into it, which is good because it's been 5 years since that movie, Batman vs Superman, came out, and even if this was the original release in 2017, it still would have been a year since then. So it is good to kind of refresh the audience, so they know what's going on, And so that was a good little thing to see, little minor detail that was just nice to have. With it being 4 hours, which is twice as long as the original, meaning they have 2 more hours to do things with the movie, means that the pacing is, of course, going to be a very big thing, a very big change for this new movie. And with this, they gave introductions and backstories to the characters, which just gives them more life as a character, more depth. It brings the connection between the audience and the characters because you understand them more, because you know them more. For example, in the original, the Flash was kind of like this scaredy cat dude, kind of goofy, kind of annoying, I guess. And he's just like this dude, this young kid, kind of scared of everything, really hesitant. And I mean, his power kind of sucks. He's fast. Whoa. But then Superman comes up and he's faster. Uh-oh. Kind of makes him useless, and that's kind of it. He's just fast. But in the new one, it kind of takes off. Like, he's still hesitant. He's still kind of scared, But it's not to the same extent as in the original. He's much more of a smoother guy, I gotta admit. He's a smooth goof this time. But it also gives him more importance because, I mean, I'm not going to spoil, but he has much more of an important role in the newer one than he does in the original. And it just gives him more depth as a character. He's much more likable than in the original because we get to see more of his character. We get to see more of how he is, who he is. I mean, he's not as important as like Cyborg in the movie, which is why Cyborg gets a lot more introduction. Now in the first movie, he was kind of just like this hermit crab guy hiding away, kind of an edge boy, not gonna lie, looking out the window at the rain and stuff. But in the new one, he still has those same characteristics, but we get to see why. He's had a tough recent life. I mean, some of the toughest stuff you can experience, and now we get to see that, and so we understand why he is the way he is, and we kind of sympathize with him, which gains an emotional connection with the character, which is always very important, to have connections between the characters and the audience, because the audience becomes more invested in the characters and in the events that unfold with the characters, and they're much more involved in the movie itself. And it also gives room for him to develop as a character and to open up and to break through that shell, which he does in the end, which isn't a spoiler because, I mean, of course he does. And in these introductions and backstories, it emphasizes their flaws. It emphasizes the challenges that they face, their conflicts. And through understanding that, we're more connected to them. And we get to see them grow and progress through the story because we actually know where they started off. But more to the name of pacing, in terms of actual pacing of the movie, I mean, part 1, because it's divided up into like 6 parts or something, 6 parts, and then an epilogue. But part 1 was 40 minutes, and all it was introductions, backstory, and then the Steppenwolf guy gets the first box, which he gets, I think, the first 2 boxes within like the first 15 to 20 minutes of the original film. So in this, that is much longer. Like at the 40-minute mark in the original movie, I think they're already to the part where Superman's up, I think, which is like it was like halfway through at that point. But in this, they're just getting started, just barely introducing the main antagonist. But it doesn't feel like a long time. I mean, at least if you care a little bit about the film. If you don't really care at all, then it's going to feel like a long time. It's going to be boring. But if you are at least a little bit invested or opened to caring about the movie, about the characters, then it won't feel like that long. And it's not like filler. It's stuff that matters, stuff that adds to the story, adds to the characters, the plot, whatever, adds to the movie. But the extra time also gives them the chance to explain different things in the movie, like how, certain things happened. How does Wonder Woman know so much about the boxes in Steppenwolf? Did she just know that already? Did she find it out? How does this Steppenwolf dude find the boxes so fast? And like, how do the boxes even work? What even are they? And they get the time to be able to explain all these different things, and so we get to understand what the heck is happening in the movie much more with this extra time to be able to explain things that were kind of just stepped over, I guess, in the original. Also, with this extra time, they're able to add more struggle to each of the conflicts, making them more meaningful instead of them just being like, oh, here's a conflict, oh, now done, so easy. But it spans them out over a longer period of time and adds more of a struggle with it, more of a battle. From joining the team to awakening Superman to the final battle, especially the final battle. But yeah, it adds more like importance to the events, which they are supposed to be important because they're all pivotal events in the movie. But besides the pacing, because that's kind of an obvious, it's the small little details that add a lot to the film that weren't in the original. Little things like a few extra sentences here and there, to those girls singing when Aquaman left after talking to Batman in the beginning. I don't really know what that did, but it just kind of like added something to the scene. Made it more of a lively scene. It added some music and made the scene feel more impactful. But also other little things like the fact that they added blood in the newer one. In Schneider's version, they had blood, they had gore. But like when people get thrown headfirst into the wall and then they just fall, they got knocked out, it's kind of dumb, makes it seem like it's play fighting. But adding that sense of blood just makes it more serious. It adds the fact that this is legit, this is severe stuff. They're not just knocking people out, they be dying. And it's little things like that don't really matter too much, but it's just kind of cool to see. But then also other small little details that they didn't have to do at all, like changing Steppenwolf's armor has more of like a blue purplish tint on it, and then like the little pieces like ripple like all the time. I don't know, it just looks cool. They didn't have to do that at all. They could just left the same thing. And they probably had to do some new animations for that. And it's just like little things like that you can appreciate. And then a lot of the small little additions of dialogue and stuff like that between characters or with characters and just random people, it gave us more of an insight into who they are, and sometimes just explained what was going on. But the biggest minor detail that was changed between the two movies was music. Now, the reason I said minor is because it's not really minor, because it's in the whole entire movie, and the change of music can change kind of the whole vibe, the whole tone of a movie, of a scene, with just the change of music. But I mean, it's not like they went from, I don't know, country to heavy metal. Like, it's not that much of a drastic change. It's still the same overall kind of music, but there is differences, and so it is kind of a minor-ish detail. Now, I didn't go back and listen to every song from both movies to see if they're actually different, because I don't have time for that. But from watching them back to back, it seemed like majority, if not all of the music was different between the two movies. Now, again, I have no idea if that's actually true, but even if it isn't, it felt different. The music had a different impact on the scenes. Little changes like adding the Wonder Woman theme when she's first fighting Steppenwolf, it just kind of adds to the scene, you know. It kind of brings that sort of like connection with the audience. Like, oh, I know that song, you know, it's Wonder Woman, yeah, we got the theme, cool, you know. It just kind of brings it home, you know, with little things like that. And a lot of the music added much more of a serious undertone to the movie and a lot of the scenes. And one of the scenes that was very much impacted, very much changed, was the scene where Aquaman, and this isn't a spoiler because it's also happened in the first one, or the original version. Aquaman saves some like fisherman dude off a boat in the middle of the ocean, and he like throws him in a bar, grabs a bottle of whiskey, drinks it, and then dives back into the ocean. You know, in the original, you know, he's kind of like this drunk dude. I mean, I don't think he's drunk, but you know, he's like a drunk. You know what I mean? And he's just like this guy, this reckless dude, doesn't really care about anything. I mean, he saves the guy, but he's just like, whatever. Give me whiskey, he's gonna pay for it. And then he goes out, drinks it, and they got like this rock music in the background. You know, it just makes it look like he's just this dude, but it's Chad, you know. But in the newer version, in Snyder's version, I mean, they're both Snyder's version. In the Schneider cut, in the new version, I'm just gonna say new version. In the new version of the film, the music is totally different, and he talks a lot less. I think the only thing he says is whiskey, and then he's paying for it, or something like that. Like very minimal lines. And the music was a lot more serious. And it just really brought out his characteristics of being a frustrated, distraught, angry person, which he is, you know. And it's also emphasized in a lot of other scenes. A lot of the times where he's talking with like Volko and Vera, I think her name is. And so it emphasizes, you know, certain aspects of the characters and their characteristics and who they are as a person, how they feel. And in that scene, the change of music emphasized, you know, the kind of person that he actually was and what he's feeling inside. And so it gives us more of an insight into the character, more of a connection. And there's also use of like themes throughout the movie, similar to the way Pixar uses themes in their movies to emphasize like different emotional scenes that might like that happen at the beginning, and it's like, oh, sad, and then they use the same song in the future, like in the towards the end of the movie or whatever, and it's another like sad moment or like a happy moment maybe, or like reminiscing on the past, and adding that connection of the music, even if it's subconscious, like you don't even actually consciously notice that it's the same music, it does have an effect. If you want to go further into the way Pixar uses music in their movies, I'll put a video in the card and the description all about that. It's a pretty good video, and learn a bit of something about music and movies. But anyways, they do use that concept a bit in this movie. I don't really remember what kind of scenes they used it in, but anyways, it just adds, you know, a little bit more, adds of like more of a callback to other emotional scenes or other struggles or whatever it is. But in addition to changes in music, there's also a lot more cinematic shots, slow-mos, and, you know, the music that add a whole nother piece of dramatization. From piecing together all those different things, the pacing, the minor little details, and the music, there's a lot more dramatization of different scenes and different aspects of scenes. And by dramatization, I don't mean drama like, drama. Billy was dating Janine's sister, and then Janine found out, and now they're breaking up. Drama. Not drama like that. Drama like emphasizing certain aspects of a scene, whether it be the emotion, the tragedy, or the severity of a scene. And with a longer runtime, they're able to play out much more dramatic scenes and add more of an emphasis to these certain aspects that are supposed to kind of be, you know, the main aspects of that scene, but they're not really able to be dramatized in the original because there isn't enough time to do that. But in this one, there's a lot of time, and so they're able to add a lot more dramatization to a lot of the scenes and really just make them much more impactful and meaningful to the audience. For example, the scene where Steppenwolf first gets the first box from the Amazonians or whatever. In the original, he just shows up. Those insect thingies, kill a bunch of them, and then he chases the queen girl. She closes the gates. He just bashes through the wall, chases them, and then that's it. He gets the box and he's gone. But in the newer version, there's much more lead up to the event because it is supposed to be important because you're first introduced to the main antagonist of the movie. So it makes sense for them to do more of a lead up to that because it is an important scene. They add much more cinematic shots and much more depth, and even like that the fight is more leveled out. Not to say that it's fair because he does completely obliterate them, but they get a bit more on him than they did last time. And just little things like that just add to the fact that this is an important scene, and that it is emphasized that, oh, he's this big guy and he's coming after these boxes, and these boxes are very important. And that's kind of like things that they touched on and emphasized through the dialogues and the dramatization of the scene, through the music and cinematic shots and slow-mos and things like that. But one of the best examples of it improving the dramatization would be in the awakening of Superman. When they first put him into that liquid water stuff, I don't know what that is. When they first put him into that in the original, it was just like, whatever, I don't really know. They just kind of bloop. But in the other one, it was much more zoomed in, slow-mo, with a lot of dramatic music in the background as he slowly put him in, because it was a pivotal moment in the movie, and so it makes sense to emphasize that. And then in the Flash going up and charging the cube, there's much more emphasis on the fact that it's not an easy task, and that this is also a very pivotal moment. If he fails, that's very bad. And so there's just a lot more emphasis on certain parts of these scenes that make it much more dramatic and much more meaningful. And like when he explodes out of the top of the thing, people around are like seeing him instead of him just, boop, there he is, oh, now he's down. It adds to the fact that this is, a big thing in the movie. Oh, now Superman's alive. And in the change of music and the lack of dialogue from Superman, and the fact that he attacks the military people that shot at him, it shows that he lost his humanity, because he wasn't actually a human, but he grew up on Earth, and so he kind of has that humanity to him. And through these different things, like the music is much more of a bad guy kind of music, and he doesn't say anything, and he's attacking humans, and it just kind of shows that he's different, and then when Lois comes, it's a huge shift, totally different shift. And also the fact that Lois came on her own fruition, is that what you say? Fruition? I don't know. Gives it more of an emotional charge, an emotional drive to the scene, rather than her being called in by Batman as like a contingency in case he's mad. It just adds more depth to the scene, more meaning when he sees her, and then has the large shift in emotion and music, and everything about the scene totally shifts when she comes. But the dramatization and adding to the story and the meaning of these plot points isn't just done from emphasizing previous scenes, because then it wouldn't be 2 hours longer. So of course it also includes adding new scenes. Like all the scenes of the backstory, because there was literally no backstory of any of the characters before in the original version, but in the new version, there's a lot of backstory, especially for Cyborg, in which we're actually able to see his mom, who wasn't even in the original movie, but now we're able to see his deep connection with his mom and his lack of connection with his father. And then we actually get to see her die in the car crash, in which he was also believed to have died. And then we get to see him be resurrected as the cyborg, in which it also helps to explain how the box works later on. But we get to see more of why these characters are the way they are and more of their story, and so we sympathize with them, like I said earlier, and we're more involved with them, more in tune, more invested in what happens to these characters because we feel like we know them more because we do, technically. Opening up things like this also gave way to develop his relationship with his father, and it gave it much more meaning as the movie progressed, and you get to see that his father did care and that he felt that it was a mistake that he wasn't there for him in the beginning. And so it just kind of adds more to the characters, more depth, more life, and more connection with the audience. But there's also a lot of inclusion of the actual team dynamic of the movie, which makes sense because it is Justice League. It's all the superheroes teaming up, and it kind of seemed like that really wasn't an aspect in the original movie, which is weird. But in this one, there's a lot more emphasis on the team. There was a lot less squabbling and quarreling between each other. Now they did still have their differences and their little banter, but they grew together and they developed as a team, and we were able to see that in the final battle, in which they like combine powers and stuff like that and really work off of each other and play off each other's strengths and weaknesses and stuff, so that they have more of a team dynamic, which wasn't really present in the first movie. And it just makes sense to have that there because it is a team-oriented film. The main thing is that they're teaming up to fight a much stronger enemy. And although Superman still slaps, it makes sense. But I mean, hey, do be looking spicy with the black suit. But yeah, and then ending the final scene in the end with all of them on that ledge, and you got that cool cinematic shot. I mean, it just really ties the bow onto that whole idea of the team and the unity of them working together. And then you had the epilogue at the end, which I'm not going to spoil anything about, but it did give more of a direct path now to where the story is going to progress and where the next films are going to go. And it just kind of makes sense that they're doing that, Like Marvel had that down to a science, and in all of their films, they have some sort of sneak peek to a future something at the end, and builds hype for those new movies. And DC, not that I know of, really did it that much, and if they did, it wasn't really that good. But in this one, I mean, there's a lot. They kind of just like stacked it and just went like all out. But I do feel like it was good that they kind of included that, and you got some fan favorite characters, and so it's just kind of cool to see. But yeah, overall, I mean, the movie had a much more serious undertone, which I personally enjoyed, through things like the music and the blood and gore, and just overall more depth to the story and the characters through more introduction and development. And there's much more of a connection between the past and future events of the movie and movies that came before and movies that'll come after. And it's just honestly a well put together film. I think the only thing that I wouldn't agree with Charlie, that he said in his video, is that it kind of felt disjointed, in that they kind of just got the scenes from the original movie and then just filled in the gaps with some new stuff. but I mean, that's kind of just what it was. That's kind of old, how the first original version was as well. It was kind of just the main plot points and then filler in between. And so I feel like it wasn't really that disjointed in comparison to the original, because that one wasn't really very cohesive either. Um, and I feel like they did it well in terms of keeping that sense of cohesion while still bouncing around to different things, because they are introducing a lot of the different characters who are in different places doing different things. And so it makes sense that it's not all one little storyline, but instead a lot of different branches. And so I feel like they did that pretty well. But yeah, everything else I agree with Charlie on. But yeah, it was a very good movie. Enjoyed it thoroughly, even though I was taking notes the whole time. Again, if you want to look at those for some reason, they're in the description. As well as a link to Charlie's video and that Pixar use of music video thing. But yeah, I'm tired. My throat hurts because I recorded this before and now I'm doing it again. I hope you enjoyed. If you did, consider giving this video a like. I would severely appreciate it. Like I said, it's been a lot of work putting together this video. So again, I would appreciate it if you liked the video and maybe consider subscribing. I don't really do videos like this, but I probably will do some more in the future of movies that I care about, maybe shows. I might do some on some shows that I've already watched. But yeah, kind of just experimenting with this concept of video because I've never really done anything like this. But we just do whatever on this channel, so you can go ahead and check it out if you want, and maybe consider sticking around. Alright, well, again, for the 15th time, thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video. Yeah. Comment down below if you had anything else to say about Justice League, or maybe a future video that I should do. Yeah, feel free to comment whatever you feel like down in the comments. And I will hopefully, maybe, possibly see you in the next video. So, yeah. Until then, deuces.